There are love stories that begin with whispers, others with meetings arranged by fate, and a few that descend upon the world like a legend unfolding in real time. Lohengrin's story belongs to the last category. It is not merely a tale of romance, it is a myth born from the threshold between heaven and earth, a place where the human heart trembles before something too divine to name. The scene opens in a kingdom shrouded in conflict. Elsa, accused of a crime she cannot remember, stands alone, her voice drowned by the noise of doubt and fear. But myths always begin when hope seems most fragile. And so, in the silence that hangs before judgment, the mist surrounding the river softens, shimmering like the breath of another world. From that mist, a swan appears, majestic, white as a forgotten dream, gliding with an otherworldly grace. It pulls a small boat, carved with symbols older than memory. Inside stands Lohengrin, the Swan Knight, a figure whose presence feels like a prophecy finally arriving home. His armor is not merely metal, it gleams with a radiance that suggests it has been kissed by celestial fire. His eyes hold a depth that is both familiar and unreachable, as if he has lived 1,000 destinies and carries fragments of each one in silence. He does not walk toward Elsa as a conqueror, but as someone who has heard the echo of a soul calling across lifetimes. He comes not because he must, but because the thread of destiny tugged at his heart, guiding him toward a woman whose innocence he recognizes without needing proof. For in the mythic world, recognition does not come from logic. It comes from resonance. Elsa, trembling, feels something stir inside her, something long buried beneath fear, the memory of a love that predates her human life. And though she does not understand it, her soul does. It rises to meet him like a flame rising to greet the wind. Lohengrin tells the gathered court that he will defend her. But there is one condition. She must never ask his name or his origin, for the divine can descend into the human realm, but it cannot remain if forced to expose its mystery. This rule, ancient and absolute, forms the fragile bridge between their worlds. As he steps forward to fight for her honor, the mist behind him begins to fade, revealing that the celestial moment is already slipping back into time. But the imprint of it, the arrival of a knight carried by a swan through a veil of silver fog, lingers like a vow. It marks the beginning of a love that is destined to be both miraculous and tragic, a love woven from faith, silence, and the delicate boundary between what is known and what must forever remain unsaid. Before the battle even begins, the myth has already spoken. Some loves arrive wrapped in mystery, and only those who trust without fear can hold them. At the heart of the Lohengrin myth lies one of the oldest and most powerful archetypes in human storytelling, the rescuer and the rescued. It is a pattern etched into our collective psyche, appearing in countless legends, scriptures, and sacred romances. Yet within the context of twin flames and spiritual union, this archetype becomes more than a dramatic motif. It becomes a mirror, reflecting the longing of two souls to restore what was lost before time split them apart. Elsa stands as the archetype of the rescued, a soul accused, misunderstood, and paralyzed by the weight of a destiny she cannot fully comprehend. Her innocence is not simply moral, it is existential. She represents the part of every human being that has forgotten its divine origin and is left trembling in the face of life's harsh judgments. Her cry for help, whether spoken or silent, ripples through the spiritual dimension. In twin flame lore, such a cry is not a weakness. It is the soul's signal flare, calling for the return of the companion who shares its eternal blueprint. Lohengrin, on the other hand, embodies the rescuer, not a savior driven by ego, but a guardian drawn by resonance. He is a warrior of light, guided not by earthly obligation, but by a sacred vow that transcends incarnations. His descent into Elsa's world is symbolic of the divine masculine responding to the divine feminine's call, an echo of the spiritual dance where one flame extends strength while the other reveals vulnerability. Together, they form a complete circuit of love, each fulfilling a role that awakens the other's dormant truth. But this archetype is far from one-dimensional. The rescuer and the rescued are not meant to freeze into a static dynamic. Lohengrin does not rescue Elsa so that she may remain dependent. He rescues her so that she may remember her own sovereignty. His arrival is not the salvation of a helpless woman. It is the catalyst for her inner awakening. Likewise, Elsa does not draw Lohengrin into the earthly realm to serve her needs. She calls him forth because her soul recognizes that his presence will initiate the next chapter of her spiritual evolution. The archetype also contains a shadow. The desire to be rescued can become a prison if one clings to it, refusing to step into self-responsibility, and the impulse to rescue can become a burden if it arises from fear of being unnecessary. Lohengrin and Elsa stand at this delicate threshold. Their connection demonstrates that true rescue is never one-sided. It is a mutual exchange of remembrance. Elsa's vulnerability opens the gate for Lohengrin's mission, and Lohengrin's strength awakens Elsa's forgotten power. Together, they illuminate a profound truth. The rescuer and the rescued do not exist to complete each other. They exist to remind each other of the wholeness that was never lost. In the tale of Lohengrin, the condition placed upon Elsa, the rule that she must never ask his name or origin, is not merely a dramatic device. It is a profound spiritual metaphor charged with the weight of cosmic symbolism. A love that must not be questioned is not a love built on blind obedience. It is a love anchored in trust so deep that it transcends the limitations of the rational mind. At its core, this vow represents the fragility of divine connection when filtered through human consciousness. Twin flames, like Lohengrin and Elsa, often experience a bond so intense, so inexplicably magnetic, that the ego instinctively seeks to define it, understand it, and categorize it. Yet the moment the mind attempts to dissect what is meant to be felt, lived, and surrendered to, the connection begins to distort. The sacred is easily shattered when forced into the narrow container of logic. Lohengrin's request is symbolic of a universal law. Divine love thrives in surrender, not in control. His identity, ethereal, cosmic, beyond earthly lineage, cannot be contained by a question. It can only be experienced. Elsa's struggle reflects the soul's own difficulty in trusting what it cannot fully grasp. She is caught between two forces, the purity of her heart, which already knows him, and the insecurity of the human personality, which fears abandonment, betrayal, or illusion. In the twin flame journey, this tension often becomes the crucible where transformation takes place. The higher self recognizes the connection instantly, but the ego, shaped by wounds and past karmic scars, seeks reassurance, guarantees, and explanations that the spiritual realm simply does not operate by. And so, Elsa's forbidden question becomes the echo of every soul's whisper. Is this real? Will you stay? Why do I feel this so deeply? Yet within this archetypal struggle lies an unexpected revelation. The question is not wrong. It is simply premature. Elsa is not punished for her curiosity. She is not shamed for wanting to understand. Instead, the tragedy arises because she asks the question from fear rather than from trust. She grasps at certainty instead of allowing the truth to reveal itself in its own time. This chapter of the myth reminds us that divine love cannot be forced into clarity. Its essence unfolds like a sacred lotus, petal by petal, layer by layer, through intuition rather than interrogation. Lohengrin's condition, therefore, is an invitation, not a restriction. An invitation for Elsa to step beyond doubt and into the higher realm where love is known without explanation. When she breaks the vow, the connection dissolves not because she asked, but because the act signaled a loss of spiritual alignment. For a moment, her fear overshadowed her faith, and so, a love that must not be questioned does not ask us to silence our hearts. It asks us to listen more deeply. It reminds us that some truths can only be felt, and some loves can only survive when we trust the invisible currents that brought them into being. Elsa's fear is not merely the fear of losing Lohengrin. It is the fear of the unknown, the intangible, the mystical realm that love sometimes opens within us. Her heart is pulled between two worlds, the familiar safety of human certainty and the boundless, shimmering expanse of divine mystery. In this tension, she represents every soul who confronts a love that feels larger than life. A love that does not fit neatly into logic, labels, or explanations. When Lohengrin arrives, he does not just rescue her from danger. He awakens in her a sense of destiny she has never felt before his presence defies reason. His love feels preordained. His devotion is unconditional from the very beginning. And though Elsa is moved by this sacred connection, she also becomes deeply unsettled by it. Something so perfect, so luminous, naturally triggers the shadow of doubt. Human beings fear what they cannot control, and divine love by nature cannot be controlled. Elsa begins to feel the growing pressure around her, the whispers of the court, the suspicions of those who do not understand the miracle unfolding before their eyes, and the echoes of her own insecurities. The more she tries to hold on to Lohengrin, the more fragile she feels. Doubt creeps in like a silent tide. Her heart knows him, but her mind wants proof. Her soul recognizes him, but her ego demands guarantees. The world around her mirrors her fears, amplifying them until they become unbearable. In the twin flame journey, this inner conflict is universal. When two souls reunite, the connection often evokes both awe and terror. The love feels ancient, yet the mind cannot trace its origins. The other feels familiar beyond explanation, yet the rational world offers no validation for such recognition. And so, like Elsa, many feel pulled between a deep inner knowing and the noise of external uncertainty. Elsa's fear does not make her weak. It makes her profoundly human. She is a symbol of the heart trying to reconcile spiritual truth with earthly limitations. Her longing to ask Lohengrin's name is not born from distrust. It is born from vulnerability. She simply wants to feel safe in a love that feels too extraordinary to be real. She wants reassurance, not answers. She wants grounding, not suspicion. But divine mystery is delicate. It does not thrive when forced into interrogation. It is like a butterfly, beautiful, elusive, and easily frightened away by the heavy hand of fear. Elsa's tragedy reveals a fundamental truth. The heart often fears what the soul already understands, and when fear speaks louder than intuition, the bridge between the human and the divine begins to tremble. In her struggle, we see the struggle of every seeker on a spiritual path. Elsa embodies the fragile balance between trust and fear, surrender and control, destiny and doubt. Her journey is a reminder that divine love asks us not to understand, but to trust, not to question, but to listen, not to cling, but to open. The moment Elsa asks the forbidden question, "Who are you?" the entire spiritual architecture of her connection with Lohengrin begins to fracture. This is not simply a question of identity. It is a rupture in the delicate bond between the human heart and divine mystery. For Lohengrin, the question is a wound. For Elsa, it is a desperate cry for grounding in a love that feels too vast, too miraculous, too overwhelming to exist without explanation. The tragedy is not that she doubts Lohengrin's love. The tragedy is that she doubts her own ability to hold something sacred without understanding it. Faith is fragile when fear whispers in the shadows of the mind. Elsa's faith, once luminous, becomes tarnished by the pressures of the world around her. The court gossips, the seeds of suspicion, the insistence that no love can be trusted unless fully explained. All these forces coil around her heart until she can no longer hear the quiet voice of intuition. In many spiritual journeys, especially those echoing the twin flame dynamic, the forbidden question appears at the moment of greatest vulnerability. It emerges when one soul, overwhelmed by the intensity of divine connection, reaches for the comfort of certainty. "Tell me who you are," they ask. "Tell me why I feel this way. Tell me I am safe." But divine love is not strengthened by interrogation. It is strengthened by surrender. When Elsa asks the question, she is not betraying Lohengrin. She is betraying her own inner knowing. The faith that had carried her through fear and darkness collapses under the weight of doubt. The realm of spirit, which had been so close, suddenly feels unreachable. She grasps for answers, the way a drowning person grasps for air. Yet the very act pulls her further from the shore of trust. Lohengrin, bound by his sacred vow, cannot remain where trust has been replaced by suspicion. His essence, his very being, depends on the sanctity of faith. To reveal his identity is to strip the mystery of its divine power, to collapse heaven into the limitations of human understanding. And so, with heartbreaking inevitability, he must leave, not because he ceases to love Elsa, but because the question itself dissolves the field in which their love could exist. This moment reflects a universal truth. When faith breaks, spiritual connection falters. It does not disappear, but it retreats, waiting for the heart to realign with trust. Elsa's forbidden question is the turning point of her destiny, the moment where fear triumphs over intuition, where love is overshadowed by doubt. Yet her tragedy is also a lesson. Divine love cannot be possessed, proven, or dissected. It can only be lived, and sometimes the soul must break to understand what it once held without knowing. That faith is not the absence of questions, but the courage to let the mystery remain sacred. Lohengrin's departure is not merely a physical exit. It is the unraveling of a miracle. When he steps away from Elsa, it is as though the divine withdraws its hand from the human world, leaving behind an echo of what could have been eternal. His leaving is not punishment, and it is not abandonment. It is the natural consequence of a love that was sustained not by logic, but by faith. And when faith breaks, the miracle can no longer remain anchored in the material realm. As Lohengrin prepares to leave, the air around him changes. The brightness that once surrounded him dims, not out of anger, but out of sorrow. His presence, noble, serene, otherworldly, reveals a being who does not wish to go, yet cannot remain where the foundation of trust has dissolved. He came from a realm where vows are sacred and where love exists without fear or questioning. In stepping into Elsa's world, he crossed a boundary between dimensions, offering her not just rescue, but the possibility of divine union. But divine love in human hands is delicate. It requires a heart capable of seeing without needing to grasp, of feeling without needing to analyze. When Elsa voiced the forbidden question, she pulled their connection out of the realm of the sacred and placed it into the realm of the conditional. The world of proofs, demands, and insecurities. Lohengrin cannot exist in that space. His love is pure, but it is not built for the constraints of human fear. His departure is heartbreaking because it carries a paradox. He leaves because he loves. To stay would require him to betray his own essence, to reveal mysteries meant to remain veiled, to distort the very nature of the connection that once allowed them to meet. In that sense, his leaving is an act of integrity, even devotion. For Elsa, the moment is shattering. She watches the miracle slip away as though the divine is retreating from her grasp. But the pain she feels is not punishment. It is awakening. Lohengrin's departure forces her to see the cost of doubt, the fragility of trust, and the depth of her own inner wounds. It becomes a mirror, reflecting her fear, her longing, and her unhealed past. From a spiritual perspective, especially through the lens of twin flame symbolism, Lohengrin's departure represents connections that come into our lives not to stay, but to catalyze transformation. These are loves that feel supernatural because they are, yet they are also temporary because their purpose is not possession, but remembrance. They remind the soul of what it once knew in higher realms. Love is real, but it cannot be forced into certainty. As Lohengrin walks away, escorted by the swan that carried him to Elsa, he leaves her with a truth that will forever mark her heart. Divine love does not always stay, but it always leaves the soul changed. His departure is the closing of a sacred chapter, but not the end of the story. For some loves only begin to reveal their meaning after they have gone. In the quiet hours where night begins dissolving into dawn, a subtle tremor moves through the fabric of the unseen. It is not wind, nor memory, nor dream. It is the echo of something returning, something once lost, once mourned, once surrendered to the inevitable tides of fate. The world holds its breath as the waters ripple again, and from the silver surface emerges the shape that once carried a destiny between worlds. The swan, its wings, wide as forgotten promises, cut through the mist with a grace untouched by time. The creature glides forward, neither triumphant nor mournful, but bearing the solemnity of truth reclaimed. For the return of the swan never signifies salvation, nor reversal, nor repair. It symbolizes recognition, the moment when destiny completes a circle that the human heart feared was broken forever. Those who watch from afar, the realm of souls, the higher watchers, the silent guardians, know that the swan's reappearance is never random. It comes only when the vow spoken before incarnations has reached its turning point. Lohengrin's departure once seemed final, a wound carved into the boundaries between the divine and the human. But wounds in the realm of spirit are not endings. They are doorways. And now, the swan returns to guide that doorway open once more. Yet this return is not for Elsa. It is not for redemption or reunion in human form. It is the soul's moment of reclaiming what was always its own, the knowledge that love transcends its own story. Lohengrin rises from the mists not as a lover mourning what was lost, but as a being who understands what the mortal world could not sustain. His essence has shifted. Where once he descended as a knight responding to a plea for help, now he stands as a herald of a deeper truth. The swan brings him back not to the battlefield, nor to Elsa's side, but to the place where destiny aligns with remembrance. He returns to the point of origin, the contract of light, the oath of silence, the promise of unconditional trust. And though Elsa's absence aches like a star extinguished too soon, Lohengrin does not return in sorrow. He returns with clarity. Her question did not break their bond. It revealed the level at which their souls were meant to meet the swan. Sensing the completion of what was once fragmented, bows its great head as Lohengrin steps onto its back again. Together, they ascend not into a farewell, but into the continuation of a vow that never dissolved. The mist envelops them, shimmering with the memory of all that transpired, the love that blossomed, the fear that fractured it, the destiny that quietly waited for understanding. And as they disappear from mortal sight, one truth settles like soft light on the waters below. Destiny is never lost. It simply waits for the soul to be ready to reclaim it. In the final hush that lingers after destiny is spoken, a gentle shimmer rises through the air, delicate, almost imperceptible, like a whisper from another world. It is here, in this fragile space between endings and beginnings, that a single butterfly takes flight. Its wings, painted with the soft glow of ancient memories, tremble against the breeze as if recalling every lifetime that shaped its journey. The butterfly does not rush. It glides with the serene confidence of a soul that has embraced both its suffering and its transformation. For every flutter of its wings carries stories carved from sorrow, devotion, sacrifice, and awakening. It rises not in triumph, but in freedom, the kind of freedom that blooms only after a heart has surrendered to what cannot be held and accepted what cannot be changed. The path ahead is luminous, yet undefined. No map charts its course, no prophecy dictates its direction. Still, the butterfly moves with purpose, guided by a wisdom older than time. It traces arcs through the air that echo the same eternal rhythm woven through Lohengrin's descent, Madame Butterfly's devotion, and every soul that has loved beyond the boundaries of reason and fate. There is beauty in its fragility. There is strength in its softness. And there is truth in the way its wings rise and fall, mirroring the rise and fall of every soul's longing. The butterfly does not mourn the past it leaves behind, nor cling to the illusions that once weighed upon it. The past has already given it everything it needed: the wound, the lesson, the metamorphosis. As it ascends, the world below seems to exhale. What was once tragedy is now transmuted into understanding. What was once a heavy goodbye now becomes a gentle blessing. The butterfly carries this blessing forward, as if scattering threads of light for those still walking through their own shadows, still searching for meaning in their own storms. And so it rises higher, not escaping, but evolving. Its flight is a quiet declaration that love never truly ends. It simply changes form, shifts dimension, and finds new ways to express itself. Just as the swan returned to complete the circle of destiny, the butterfly rises to remind us that every ending is only the threshold of a greater transformation. In its fragile ascent lies the promise that all souls, no matter how lost or broken, will eventually find their wings again. If this chapter touched your soul, if Lohengrin's descent, Elsa's longing, and the butterfly's final flight awakened something deep within you, then let your energy be felt. Leave a like. Every gesture helps this channel reach more hearts, searching for meaning, healing, and spiritual remembrance. Share in the comments which moment in this chapter resonated the most with your journey. Your reflections transform this space into a living circle of wisdom and connection. Subscribe and activate notifications so you don't miss the next chapter in this epic series of love, destiny, and soul rebirth across lifetimes. If you feel called to support this work and help keep these stories alive, you can contribute through Super Thanks. Your support truly makes a difference and allows this channel to continue growing with purpose and heart. Thank you for being here, for feeling deeply, and for walking this path of timeless love with me. See you in the next video, where another veil of the soul's story will be lifted.